Julian Vance was not a litigator, but a retired municipal planning specialist who had spent 40 years interpreting the labyrinthine language of city zoning ordinances, subdivision plats, and dedication deeds. He knew that the true legal identity of any piece of asphalt or concrete lay not with the current owner, but in the brittle, yellowed documents filed decades ago in the county recorder's office. His daily routine depended on the existence of the North Passage, a half-mile stretch of road that cut through the Oakmont Bluffs community, slicing his commute to the city's main library and archives down from 40 minutes to a brisk 15. It was this vital artery that the Oakmont Bluffs HOA decided to unilaterally shut down. Under the guidance of the self-proclaimed security expert and HOA president, Garrett Flint, the board voted to install a massive, wrought-iron, key-fob-controlled security gate across the North Passage's entrance. Flint marketed the gate to residents as an absolute barrier against unwanted external traffic and a decisive upgrade to exclusive community security, leveraging $50,000 of the community's reserve funds for the construction. When Julian learned of the plan, he immediately warned the board, citing his professional background and expressing concern about potential public access issues. Flint, whose primary skill was condescension, dismissed Julian with a patronizing email stating, "Mr. Vance, this is private property and we have consulted with our counsel. Your concerns about traffic flow are secondary to the safety and privacy of our dues-paying residents." The gate went up on a Tuesday morning. It was an imposing structure-solid iron pillars, heavy swing arms, and a flashing red sign reading, "Private road, authorized vehicles only, Julian." Now facing the 40-minute detour felt a profound professional affront. This wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a brazen, physical obstruction of established public use. And Flint's certainty that the road was private was precisely the arrogant assumption Julian intended to exploit. He knew that in planned communities built on the edge of municipal expansion, the road dedicated for construction and initial access often carried burdens that the subsequent HOAs conveniently forgot. Julian initiated his investigation with the focused intensity of a forensic architect. He spent a week immersed in the city planning department's archives, pulling the original 1992 Subdivision Plat for the Oakmont Bluffs development. He cross-referenced the plat map's notes and dedications, with the associated deed of easement and acceptance filed with the county. The effort paid off handsomely, revealing the fatal flaw that the HOA's current legal counsel, who likely only reviewed the current CC&Rs, had completely missed. The original developer of Oakmont Bluffs, in exchange for receiving favorable zoning and municipal infrastructure hookups in the early 1990s, had explicitly dedicated the North Passage Road to the city via a perpetual, non-exclusive public access easement for the purpose of vehicular and pedestrian through traffic, utility access, and general municipal transit. This dedication was recorded in perpetuity. The legal implication was devastating to the HOA's claim of privacy. While the HOA technically owned the asphalt and was responsible for its maintenance, the fee simple title, the city retained a non-exclusive right-of-way across that surface. The North Passage Road was, in legal effect, a hybrid public thoroughfare. The instant the HO installed a physical barrier, the key-fob gate, they committed a clear, actionable offense, obstruction of a public right-of-way. This was not a civil dispute. This was a confrontation with the city's fundamental authority over public access and infrastructure. Julian did not bother to send the HOA a certified letter. He compiled his evidence, a certified copy of the original 1992 plat map explicitly referencing the easement, the associated deed of easement, and high-resolution photographs of the physical gate obstructing the dedicated right-of-way. He walked directly into the office of the city attorney, a formidable woman named Sarah Chun, and presented his neatly bound packet of documentation. Attorney Chun understood the immediate and severe implications of the documentation. A documented intentional obstruction of a public right-of-way carried a significant threat of liability for the city if emergency vehicles were delayed. Furthermore, allowing a private entity to nullify a perpetual easement set a disastrous legal precedent. The city's response was not a gentle negotiation. It was an overwhelming display of municipal power designed to achieve immediate compliance. The city attorney's office issued an immediate public nuisance abatement and enforcement order to the Oakmont Bluffs HO. The language of the order was uncompromising. It cited the specific easement deed, declared the new security gate an illegal physical obstruction of a public right-of-way, and deemed it a public nuisance and a threat to emergency transit. The order contained a brutal ultimatum. The HOA must fully dismantle and remove the entire gate structure within 24 hours of receiving the order. Attached to the enforcement order was a preliminary draft of a city lawsuit against the HOA for injunctive relief and damages, detailing the potential costs, a $500 per day fine for continued obstruction, the cost of the city's Public Works Department performing the removal itself, billed to the HOA at triple the normal rate, plus police escort fees, and massive statutory penalties for obstruction of emergency services access. The threat alone, the immediate need to hire expensive litigation counsel to fight the city, was sufficient to induce complete panic. Garrett Flint and the board, realizing the depth of the legal hole they had dug, scrambled in frantic late-night emergency sessions. Their own general counsel confirmed Julian's findings. The perpetual easement was ironclad, and the city's legal position was unassailable. They were not fighting a neighbor. They were fighting the government, and they had zero legal defense. At 7 a.m. the next morning, less than 20 hours after the city's order was delivered, the same contractors who had installed the $50,000 gate were back, operating in shame and haste. Under the silent, watchful gaze of Julian Vance, they dismantled the imposing wrought iron structure, tearing out the pillars and the sensitive key-fob mechanism, loading the expensive wreckage onto flatbed trucks. The entire removal cost, estimated at $12,000 for the rapid emergency labor, was borne by the HOA. The financial fallout was total. The $50,000 cost of the gate was wasted. The $12,000 removal cost was incurred, and the HOA had to pay thousands more in emergency legal fees to settle the matter with the city attorney's office and avoid the threatened lawsuit. The total loss exceeded $75,000. All levied against the general reserves and destined to become a painful special assessment. Garrett Flint, the confident architect of the exclusive security upgrade, resigned in humiliation that afternoon, his pride destroyed by a piece of decades-old municipal paperwork. The North Passage remained open, a public shortcut as Julian had always known it should be. Julian Vance had used the quiet authority of an obscure government document to force the government itself to tear down the illegal fortress and ensure that public rights-of-way remained exactly that, public,